Under the sickly yellow glow of a Providence street lamp, rain slicing through the night like shards of glass, Officer Marcus Bell steps out of his cruiser, calm, by the book, uniform crisp despite the storm. He approaches a luxury sedan idling crookedly across two handicapped spots. Before he can even tap his flashlight on the window, the door flies open. Out storms a woman in designer heels, phone in one hand, a gleaming metal badge in the other. Not real, not earned, just a hollow trinket from Daddy's desk. "You don't even know who I am," she shrieks, jabbing the badge toward his chest like a weapon. "My father runs this entire police department. You touch my car, I'll have your job by sunrise." Dashcam footage catches Marcus's pause, not flinching, not raising his voice. Just standing there, a black man in a system that's asked him to serve while others inherit power like jewelry. The internet would later call it a traffic stop. But what unfolded in those 10 seconds wasn't just arrogance. It was a declaration. Some people believe the law bends for bloodline. And what happened next in Judge Caprio's courtroom would prove just how dangerously wrong they are. That night, Officer Bell did everything right. He kept his hands visible, his voice level, his dignity intact. But Chloe Mercer didn't want protocol. She wanted privilege. And when he politely asked for her license, she laughed. "You're seriously going to ticket me," she sneered, flipping her hair as if justice were a joke only suckers believed in. The dashcam captured it all. The way she leaned into his space, the smirk as she dangled that fake badge, the chilling certainty that her last name would shield her from consequence. What made this moment explosive wasn't just her words. It was what they represented. In a city still healing from years of police mistrust, here was a daughter of power treating law enforcement like a family heirloom, something to be brandished, not honored. Within hours, the clip exploded online. Badge of entitlement flooded timelines. Mothers of color wept in solidarity. How many times had their sons been dragged from cars for far less? Meanwhile, the police union stayed silent. Captain Mercer issued a press release calling it a misunderstanding. But the public wasn't buying it. This wasn't about a parking spot. It was about who gets protected and who gets policed in America. And as outrage built, all eyes turned to one man. Judge Frank Caprio, the octogenarian jurist whose courtroom had become a national beacon of moral clarity. Because in Providence, there was only one place where a last name meant nothing. And what happened when Chloe Mercer walked into that room would leave the entire department reeling. Chloe Mercer didn't stumble into entitlement. She was born into it, swaddled in it, groomed by it. Daughter of Captain Robert Mercer, the decorated face of Providence law enforcement, she grew up not in precincts or patrol cars, but in private clubs and penthouse parties, where officers saluted her father, and by extension, her. By 16, she had a fake badge on her keychain, a gift from Dad to show respect. By 20, she'd leveraged his name to skip lines at DMVs, erase parking tickets, even get a college professor fired after he dared give her a B-. Her Instagram painted a picture of effortless glamour. Rooftop cocktails, designer halls, candid shots hanging with the boys in blue, always smiling, never serving. Friends whispered she believed the city owed her deference simply because her father wore a gold shield. And why wouldn't she? Every time she crossed a line, the system bent. 3 prior complaints, obstructing an officer, brandishing imitation credentials, threatening a traffic warden, mysteriously vanished from official logs. Family matter, insiders murmured, not worth the paperwork. But this time was different. This time, the officer didn't back down, the cameras didn't blink. And this time, her performance of power would meet a man who sees through legacy to the soul beneath. Because in Judge Caprio's courtroom, bloodlines don't talk. The truth does. And Chloe Mercer had never been taught how to speak it. Judge Frank Caprio doesn't wear a robe like armor. He wears it like responsibility. Son of a fruit peddler who arrived in America with $3 and a vow to never look down on anyone, Caprio learned early that dignity isn't given, it's earned through how you treat the person society tells you to ignore. He walked 10 miles to high school in winter, shoes held together by duct tape, studying Latin by candlelight in a cold water flat. While others clawed their way up by stepping on backs, he lifted as he climbed, funding scholarships, mentoring at-risk kids, even paying defendants bus fares out of his own pocket. For over 3 decades behind the bench, he's been the rare judge who sees not just the law, but the life behind it. He's wept with undocumented mothers fighting deportation, hugged veterans battling addiction, and once cancelled a $200 fine because a single dad needed the money for his daughter's inside. But don't mistake his mercy for weakness. When a city councilman lied under oath, Caprio jailed him on the spot. When a cop planted evidence, he tossed the case and demanded internal review. His courtroom is sacred ground, not because of gavels or flags, but because truth walks in naked, stripped of titles, wealth, and last names, asking, softly deliberate, can justice still see us when we're not wearing a uniform or carrying a famous name? What Chloe doesn't realize is that every hardship he endured, every act of quiet courage he's witnessed, has prepared him for this exact moment. To stare down inherited arrogance and say, calmly, finally, not here. Scene shift, courtroom tension. The courtroom hums with tension as Chloe Mercer struts in like she owns the place. Sunglasses on indoors, manicured nails tapping her designer phone, a smirk playing on her lips as if this were just another nuisance to breeze through. Her lawyer drones on about youthful indiscretion and social media stress, painting her outburst as a regrettable slip, not a calculated power play. But then Chloe leans into the mic, voice dripping with condescension. I never meant to threaten anyone. I just wanted him to understand who I am. The gallery stiffens. Even her father, seated in the back row in full dress uniform, stares at his boots. Judge Caprio's eyes narrow, his voice low but razor sharp. So you believe your identity grants you exemption from the law? She shrugs, casual as ordering coffee. My dad's done more for this city than half the people in it. A gasp ripples through the room. The officer standing beside the bench doesn't flinch, but his jaw tightens, years of swallowed frustration flickering in his eyes. Caprio doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. He simply looks at the bailiff and says, play the full, unedited dashcam. As the screen flickers to life, Chloe's smirk fades. Because what the footage shows isn't just disrespect, it's aggression, entitlement weaponized, a threat wrapped in privilege. And in that moment, the courtroom knows, this isn't about a parking ticket anymore. It's about whether power will finally be held to account. The screen lights up, not with edited snippets, but the raw, unvarnished truth. There's Chloe, not just shouting, but lunging toward Officer Bell, hand outstretched toward his duty belt. I'll take your taser if you don't move, she yells, voice sharp with menace. He steps back, calm as stone. Ma'am, please don't touch me. Then, the damning line, clear as ice. My dad will have your badge by sunrise. The courtroom falls silent, so silent you can hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. Chloe sinks into her chair, face pale. Her lawyer scrambles for words, but Judge Caprio raises a hand. He doesn't thunder. He doesn't perform. His voice is quiet, deliberate. Each word weighted with the gravity of a lifetime, watching power abuse its privilege. You didn't just insult an officer, he says, locking eyes with her. You used your father's honor as a weapon to intimidate a man sworn to protect you, even when you showed him no respect. He turns slowly to Captain Mercer. You raised a daughter who believes the law bends for her bloodline. That's not pride, that's poison. Then the ruling, delivered not with fury, but with surgical precision. No fine, no slap on the wrist. Instead, Chloe must shadow Officer Bell for 40 hours, riding patrol, attending community meetings, listening to the people she presumed beneath her. She'll write a public apology and read it in this very courtroom. Eyes up, voice clear. And Captain Mercer? He'll attend an ethics review and personally apologize to the officer his daughter tried to crush. The gallery erupts. Tears stream down the cheeks of elders in the back row. Chloe shakes, not with remorse, but with the shattering of a lifetime of immunity. And Officer Bell? He stands taller, not because he won, but because for the first time he was seen. But Caprio isn't finished. If you truly respected your father, he says, you'd honor his service by earning your own dignity, not stealing his. And with that, the gavel falls, not as punishment, but as restoration. Tone, reflective, measured. Within hours, the courtroom video went supernova. 12 million views by dawn, 40 million by week's end. Caprio justice flooded every platform, accompanied by memes of the judge's stern gaze over captions like, "Your last name doesn't pay my rent," and "Privilege doesn't get a parking pass." Celebrities, activists, and even retired generals praised Caprio not for harshness, but for moral clarity, a rare moment when accountability felt like healing, not vengeance. But the real earthquake hit within the system itself. 17 police departments launched internal reviews of familial privilege cases. A rookie cop in Chicago messaged Officer Bell, "You gave me the courage to report my sergeant's son for assault." Chloe's world collapsed. Sponsors dropped her. Her Instagram vanished. Her luxury apartment lease revoked. Her father requested early retirement. His Medal of Valor no longer a shield, but a silent rebuke. Yet from the ashes rose something unexpected. Officer Bell was promoted to lead a new community trust initiative, its first program titled Badge of Service, teaching teens that authority isn't inherited, it's earned through integrity, humility, and action. Even skeptical commentators admitted Caprio hadn't just punished arrogance, he'd reignited faith in a broken ideal. But as the nation celebrated, a quiet phone call from the U.S. Attorney's Office to Judge Caprio's chambers hinted that Chloe's outburst had uncovered something far darker. Sealed files, off-the-books favors, a pattern stretching beyond one spoiled daughter. The gavel had fallen, but the reckoning was just beginning. Judge Caprio's ruling was never about shame. It was about truth. In a nation exhausted by double standards, where power too often hides behind uniforms, legacies, and last names, he reminded us that justice isn't a family heirloom to be passed down. It's a covenant renewed every time someone chooses fairness over favor. Officer Bell didn't need revenge. He needed to be seen as human, and in that courtroom he was. Chloe Mercer didn't just break a traffic law. She exposed a rot that whispers, "Some are born above consequence." Caprio's answer was simple, radical, and deeply American. No one is. Not the captain's daughter. Not the influencer with 1 million followers. Not even the judge himself. True dignity isn't inherited, it's built in the quiet moments when you do the right thing, especially when no one's watching, or worse, when everyone assumes you'll get away with doing the wrong thing. This story resonates because it's not just about Providence. It's about every immigrant child told they don't belong. Every working-class officer asked to serve a system that protects the privileged. Every parent praying their kids will be judged by their character, not their connections. Caprio didn't just preside over a case. He held up a mirror. And in its reflection, we saw the America we still have the courage to become. If we dare to demand that character, not pedigree, defines us all. So what do we take from this? That justice isn't blind to power, it sees it clearly, and refuses to bow. If this story moved you, it's not just about Chloe Mercer or Officer Bell. It's about every time you've been told to step aside because someone else's name opened doors yours never could. Judge Caprio showed us that dignity doesn't roar. It listens, judges fairly, and stands firm when the entitled expect silence. Now it's your turn. Subscribe. Because stories like this happen every week, hidden beneath headlines, waiting for voices like ours to bring them to light. Share this video, especially with someone who's been made to feel small because they don't come from the right family, neighborhood, or background. Let them know your worth isn't borrowed, it's built. And in the courtroom of life, the only badge that matters is the one you earn with your actions. Stay proud, stay vigilant, and never forget, you belong here.